Look within. Look within. Look within. And live your life. And live your life on the edge of two worlds. A reality where you find true understanding of who you are. Take the step into the unknown with Alexander McCaig and Jason Rigby as they explore the thinly veiled world of consciousness, spirit, and the human condition. Join them in embodying the oneness of all. Walk the cliff's edge between the seen and the unseen realities. Welcome to High Density Living.
Droopy microphone. But we have a problem.
Button that thing up. I think
I know I've tightened it all up.
They have pills for that type of microphone.
I know, yeah. My microphone is a little droopy. There we go. Hopefully that's good.
Droop status fixed.
Yes. The little tweak.
Maybe one too many beers?
Yeah. One too many.
Oh, man.
That's the problem.
Affirmed. That is affirmed.
Speaking of affirm, we're going to talk about affirmation.
Affirmations.
An affirmation that you created for higher density living.
Yeah.
Beings.
After it was right after I was done meditating, I sat on the couch and I don't know what it was. It's just like I'm like, oh, write this down.
So you got to download?
Yeah, you're just like, oh, I gotta write that down. And I'm like, wow. I'm like trying to get my note thing open because I'm like, it comes at me like really quick. So I'm like, right. And then these things came out and it was just one right after another. Very little thought went into it. So I was like, done. And that was it.
It was that quick?
Yeah.
So, I mean, literally it took just a couple minutes?
9 sentences and it was done.
That's crazy.
No, it wasn't even a couple minutes. It was like, it took me maybe a minute and a half. My thumbs didn't stop.
And then when you sent them to me, I was like, we need to put this on the website.
Yeah.
And people, because affirmations are a big thing. You can go on YouTube and you can type in positive affirmations. And there's literally thousands of videos with hundreds of millions of views.
Yeah.
Of I am this and I am that. And I want to get into that first before we get into your what you've created. But I want to talk about affirmations, and then but before that, I want us to get into the word I am.
Oh, because
that's really important. On the Jewish side of things, Christianity side of things, I am. In the Bible, on if you look at the Old Testament, God said, "I am that I am."
Right. So
what is I am?
So when we're looking at I am, there's two things happening here. It's the recognition of you being a being.
Right.
Okay. So it's a recognition of your life energy. And am is the definition of your existence. So not only am I a being of energy, but I'm existing at this moment.
Yeah, at this moment.
And affirming that says something to the subconscious. So let's look at how the process of this works in your, I don't want to call it your mind, but your consciousness altogether. So how the consciousness affects the subconscious. You have thoughts and you're going to keep thinking them over and over and over. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be strong. I want to be strong. I'm going to be strong. Right. And so you go to the gym and you trade Forex.
Right. Oh, that was funny.
Thanks. So,
or you're on Robinhood app or whatever.
Yeah. Right. And you just give money to corporations that don't care about you. But if we think about this, when you have a repetition of a statement, your consciousness has to reconcile the statement first. Okay, what is the statement? What does it mean? What is the outcome I want to achieve from it? That's what the consciousness process goes through. Now, as that is occurring through many points of repetition, it begins to bury itself into the subconscious. You start to dream about it, okay? And then after it's deeply rooted in there, like trees, you're watering it the more you think about it, right? The roots are growing. Then it becomes a function of will, where your actions, without even having to think about it all the time, it's so buried into the subconscious and a part of your will because you've affirmed it so many times, you're naturally doing things within your day without even having to think about it that guide you towards going to the gym all the time, wanting to be rich. You're going to make choices that actually, drive you to acquiring more money. It's not a cosmic influence saying, oh, if I think about it, the universe sends it to me. That's absolutely not true. Everything is cause and effect for you. You are the master of all your outcomes. So if I'm doing these affirmations and I'm saying, oh, I want to be rich, well, you're burying it so deep in your will and subconscious. Like if that's the material thing you want, you're going to make very many choices to begin to acquire that.
I love that because I think like where you look at because we know these affirmations are extremely popular, but we see, what is the most popular with all that is like The Secret, and then it's turning around and, that the universe has everything that's there available for you, which I get that part, but there's a part where you can make, and I want you to talk about this, there's a part where you can make yourself a victim to the universe.
Yeah. So, and that is the waiting on cosmic influence. That's submissiveness to saying that something's higher than you, where if I say this, it will pay attention and then send something my way.
It's like if I'm good enough,
then
this will happen to me, or Dad will like me.
Everybody is good enough, right?
Right.
Your dad probably will never like you if he doesn't like you right now.
Right.
And shame on him, but or maybe you're just you're doing bad things.
Right.
Right. And those bad things causes him to, move away from you, a sense of separation.
Or maybe his conscious level is just not,
so
he's just focused on himself.
He's focused on himself. And when you have these affirmations, you have to understand that you're not doing an affirmation to ask for something from anyone else. You're affirming something. And an affirmation is affirming a thought, a knowing within yourself. It's a need.
It's so when I do that push-up, there's a force and an action that will, because it's physics and it's biology, it will, if I do 150 push-ups every single day, at some point, your chest, your back, your triceps, all of those things, just by the law of biology, it's going to happen.
This is very good.
I hope you see what I'm saying.
That's the material side.
It's not how I believe in that.
No, belief.
It's just by the action.
It's the action
is
alone.
What's going to happen by the law.
And no one was doing the push-up for you.
No. Yeah, exactly.
You were responsible for doing the push-up if you want to achieve whatever that outcome might be.
But because physics says you have to exert.
Yeah. And so if you think about that in terms of exerting some sort of stimulus,
right? The
conscious thought is the stimulus. It's an internal stimulus.
That creates motion.
Push-ups the external. The consciousness is the internal one, creating a motion, an internal motion with your thoughts. And the more you do it, the more it strengthens that into the subconscious, those roots, gets the chest real big, in your subconscious, you got big chested subconscious.
Yeah.
Big gorilla subconscious.
I know I'm going to look good if I do these push-ups, and I'm going to do them every day. After compound interest, after so much time, if I do these for a year straight.
Compound interest is that's a fantastic metaphor. Because that's exactly how the consciousness buries things down. If you do this over time, it builds up the power of that will. You have compounding interest in your will, and that will derive all of your decisions in this law of cause and effect, this creational law, that will drive the thing you actually really want to you.
I don't want to get into something in it because I know you experience this personally in your life with something that you have in your home, and people have seen this, an abused dog.
Oh, yeah.
An abused dog is not showing any type of it's not saying, I don't like Alex. It's just reacting to the compound interest of what has happened to it.
That is such a good statement.
And you have a dog
I do,
that you rescued from.
I rescued him. He was found on the streets of, not Coronado, Corrales.
Corrales, yeah.
And, he was a little tapped.
His
definitely
nature,
a happy dog. Yeah. His nature was a little squandered.
Right.
His development was off. Because I don't know who the previous owner was.
Right.
But, you get him and his tail was clearly broken in half and like all this other stuff. He's cute as a button.
Right.
But the compound interest of what happened in his past was so strong, so deeply cemented in his will that it's very hard for him to make recognitions, pattern recognitions that I'm not the same person that he was with before.
Right.
Whoever that might have been. And so it's going to take a while for that to change the dog's subconscious because the dog is in its own consciousness, not as evolved where we are. So it can't do it with as much action.
If I go up to it
affirmation.
when you first got it and it bit me, it's not a reflection of me.
No, it has no reflection.
It would have bit anyone.
Anybody. It was just the defense. Now, and he doesn't do that now, which is great.
Right.
I mean, he's crapped in your house a couple of times. I think he's setting his dominance. Now he's taking the total other side of the coin. But that's what it is. And so what you do as an external stimulus for the animal is you act as that affirmation for him by doing those positive things, by loving that animal. And only through patience and a lot of time will that begin to change the subconscious of the dog. And then that will change his habits. And that's why I wanted to get into this, because a lot of people sit there and they're like, I'm going to put this YouTube video on them. I am successful. I am wonderful. I am the best person that's out there. But at some point, if you're not acting Yes.
you're lying to yourself.
Of course you are.
You can't be a bad person and robbing people at night in their homes and then turn around in the morning and get up and say, I am, this person, or I am this. It's a falsehood that's being transferred. And your conscious is smart enough, it's eternal, to know that you're living a lie there.
Yeah. But the thing is, you, with your incredible intellect, believe
Right.
that something is going to happen from this, that it's the right thing to do.
Hitler believed.
Of course he did.
He believed that he was for the good, and that
Mussolini believed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now all those people,
Stalin?
Kim Jong,
Yeah.
all of them.
How many peasants did Stalin kill?
Yeah, exactly. They all believed.
Yeah.
But they never recognized a truth, creational truth. And if they did, they wouldn't have acted the way they were. But if we're looking at the affirmation here, praying is on the, people try and blend it. And when you pray, you're in a belief that something, again, in the cosmos, externally, is going to do something
through
for
faith.
You.
And we talked about
Through
faith the last episode.
And so what that's saying is, well, I don't know, so I'm going to sit here and believe and give my power up to something else, and hopefully it makes a decision through some sort of random probability that something will come down here and help me.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same that when people view that they need to clear their house with sage.
Yeah.
Now, sage is great. And that's something
we can talk. We'll talk about this. Okay,
but you know what I mean. It's not the sage.
No. The sage helps, but you got to understand what the cause was for you actually needing to clear the house.
Right.
So in your skeletal structure, okay, in material objects, your thoughts, the vibrational patterns actually get stored in it. So if we go back to a much earlier episode we did some time ago, last year or something like that, we talked about Marcel Vogel and how they realized that in silicon dioxide crystal, basic crystals you get in a store, stores information, stores in vibrational patterns, which can then be recognized in electrical output as 0 or 1, piezoelectricity. So the same function happens with everything else. You find silicon dioxide, in your bone, in the walls, everything, all these material objects, right? Silica is just extremely abundant on this earth. Over 70% of the earth is silica. The material part of it, non-water. So when we look at what's getting stored here, it's your thoughts, the vibrations of those thoughts, the conscious ones, move in a up and down wave pattern very quickly all over the place. They're smashing into things constantly. And if they're incoherent and crazy patterns, those will get stored in things, and the walls are holding on to these crazy patterns, but it was you with those thoughts.
Right.
And those can be overcome. Those can be reintegrated with positive, higher vibrational thoughts that carry a much richer density that can actually reset the negative energy, whatever that might be.
Yeah. But I mean, it's that the sage is the tool.
Sage is but a tool.
It's not for us to depend on the sage.
But what do you do when you're going to sage?
Right.
What's the thought you had? I am going to cleanse this place.
Right. Yes.
But I'm using the sage as a tool. It is but the tool for the
Same
cleansing.
as meditation.
Same as meditation, right? It's the tool that gets you there, but you still had to make that action first as yourself. You had to come to an affirmation in your mind, a conclusion in your consciousness that this is what I'm going to do, and this will help, like a placebo.
Because and we're going to get into the affirmations, but I feel like a lot of people are coming when they look at all the spiritual woo-woo stuff that's out there and everything else. They're still coming with this belief of faith, but it's not really faith. Faith is the mask of them coming to it in fear.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, I am not good enough. I don't have the ability to be able to do something, so I need a God. I need Allah, I need Jesus Christ, I need sage, I need meditation.
I need something to fill the gap.
Yeah, I need something to fill the gap because who I am is not at that level and that's where I want people to understand this, because that's where higher density living and what we're trying to teach to everyone that's out there that's listening to this.
Right.
This is very practical right now, but that's what we're trying to teach. We're trying to teach that in you is eternity,
is everything.
And in you with eternity is what we call, and this is what I love in the affirmations and what I've been saying, I've been reading it every day, is creation.
Yes.
So creation is a powerful word because it's create. You can create things. So yeah, you may use sage and you may run it around your house because you're afraid of who's afraid of those ghosts, great grandma still, after me, with a machete, but, and I'll have to get past that, or maybe I'll help you with that. No, I'm teasing. But I want people, because people are always looking for the crystal, the sage, the meditation technique, the affirmation, the new website that's out there, whether it's higher density living or whatever.
What's the new model?
Diet?
Yeah, what's the model? The diet, all that.
Yeah. And you're so far off. And what's scary is you're going down a path that leads to like a lot of religions and dogma and fundamentalism and all that. It leads to you still living in fear, you giving up your free will, and you giving something control of who you really are as, and we're going to get into this, as a being.
That's precisely
correct. Yeah. So not precisely, but
no,
it's me.
That is.
Dude, you can't say precisely in Jason Rigby. You can be precise. I can't.
No, that was well articulated.
So I want to get into, before we get into each affirmation, because we're going to talk about them, I want to get into being.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important. Well, we hit I am. Now we're getting into being.
Yeah, because being only happens when you have the recognition of creational energy within you. You cease to exist without the thing that actually enlivens the organs, which gives it that electrical output that gives your body the energy that it needs to do what it needs to do.
But existence, when you look at time, and we talked about this before the podcast, existence, when you look at time, is not true existence.
No, it's not.
We're looking at existence and we're saying, I, Jason Rigby, exist, and I'm giving myself identity, and I lived till I was 67 or 120.
You've only given identity of the existence to the material body.
But that's not my true being.
But that's not your true being. Your true being sits in your creational energy, which is the spirit that resides within you.
Yes.
That's the thing that doesn't die. That's the thing that's eternal. Creation wouldn't create something that would naturally kill itself.
And grabbing go to Whole Foods and grab a big thing of sage is not going to tap you into that eternal being.
That's a knowing. That is a recognition internally, okay, of you, how you're connected to creation.
Right.
And how you're connected to everyone else, because when creation created things, it had to take its own energy and form and put it into whatever it might be. You're in a assimilation of all that energy that has formed to who you are. You are but everything that is creation.
But I'm really, I came from Florida and I lived in Washington State, and now I live in Albuquerque, and my name is Troy Jason Rigby. That's not my true identity. But see, people are still trapped into this, what they view as their current identity, and then not. And this is where I'm pushing against this, because we have to understand, because your affirmations are a lot deeper than people think.
Yeah.
And so if they're just reading them every day, because that's why I started reading them every day, and then I started, and being is a very big word.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple word, but it's
so
a very big
word.
Caps. Yeah, you put it in caps for a certain, and you came back to me and you're like, no, we need to redo the artwork for this, especially with the word creation and being. But being, and you can look at Eckhart Tolle, and he's amazing, and he talks about being present, and I understand that, mentally and stuff like that. But being it is a recognition of who you are eternally.
Right.
And then once you recognize that, now we talk, and I don't like to use this word, and you correct me on this, because I'm never like precise, like you said. There's this, and I'm going to use a bad word, a P word, power that comes to transcend or maybe create.
No, power is a fantastic word, because that is a non-dogmatic power. It's a creational power. It's a power that only loves. It's constantly giving in its creativity. And you talked about the tool. This body is but the big bushel of sage.
Right. Yes. Perfect.
And you're burning it down.
Yes.
Over time, it burns down. And you're saying, I got to put all my value into this, but this goes away. But what's left are the thoughts that caused you to burn that sage down. The thoughts that cause you to create those actions that actually come back, that don't go anywhere, that are always stored forever, that evolve the spirit.
So I recognize that. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm a being, but I'm still the abused dog.
Okay, you're the abused dog.
And so now I'm the abused dog. I'm still reacting to the atmosphere that's around me. I still get caught up in the external.
Yeah.
And now I have an affirmation. And I need an affirmation because of it. I wouldn't need affirmations if I recognized that I'm a being and that I am.
If you got it, you don't have to be. You don't have to affirm something that's. But
in the beginning,
anymore.
what you said, and I want you to talk about it again. The affirmation is important because what does it do in our subconscious?
So what it does, you consciously read the affirmation,
right?
And if you can understand the knowledge of it, that it will bury itself into the subconscious. Because you're spreading those roots deeper and deeper. You're saying it so many times, like practicing throwing a baseball, hitting with a bat, shooting with a gun, whatever the thing might be, right? The more you do it, the better you get.
And as a dog,
it becomes more ingrained.
Every day when it looks and says, this person isn't hitting me yet.
He's not beating me. He feeds me every single day. He doesn't scream at me, right? He pets me, shows me tons of love. He gives me a bath. He takes me to the dog park. He does all these different things. And now I'm thinking about it. Yeah. No, but... it's an external affirmation to the dog.
But it's just us using the tool, whether it's dog food or whatever. It's us using affirmation as a tool to recognize in how much creation is doing that daily in and of us.
It does it.
How much it loves us.
All the time internally. It loves us so much that it's given us all of nature around us. It's given us the experience of me and you to interact, these people to listen, us to evolve, to view the planets, to do all these absolutely phenomenal things.
Right.
And if you can recognize the love and how much giving there was in that energy, that allows you to truly live through your spirit, that is a just majestic thing. And
as that dog begins to, and it may not understand that because it lives in now, and we had a whole two or three episodes on dogs.
Why we love dogs.
Yeah, why we love dogs. It begins to understand and begins to know and feel and believe and trust.
Because it does, because it really can't know any better. So the dog has to believe in you.
Yes.
In its conscious state, the dog has to believe that this is going to happen. In its pattern recognition, I believe that this will happen next.
Yeah, and that's so good, pattern recognition, because it's the same. Dogs have it more than we do,
right?
But it's the same. People don't understand that. Like I read a whole neuroscientist book on dogs. They can see shadows of a chair and know that a child is coming home off the bus at 3:30.
Yeah,
because it saw the shadow in the chair. It pays attention. Dogs pay attention to things like that.
Oh,
so
yeah. My dog's
pattern recognition.
It's all that pattern recognition, and we have become so bad at recognizing our own internal patterns.
Oh, because we're on these things.
We're on these all the time. We're so detached from who we are internally and our own internal patterns and how we actually interact with people and nature around us. Just, we're not interacting with creation. And that's what it wants us to do.
Right.
Creation put out all of these pieces of spirit. It's always creating more so that it can better understand its creation, itself. Why do we do things? Why do we ask these questions? We listen to this podcast so we can better understand ourselves than others. We're doing the same thing in a microcosm that the macrocosm is doing. And these affirmations are only just one fantastically non-dogmatic modeled step to help you recognize a pattern that builds into your subconscious so you can actually be aware of all the beauty that is around you, or the beauty that sits next to you, or the beauty of a thought. And you can begin to feel these things. You become empathetic to yourself and to others.
Recognizing that beauty in creation.
And once you recognize it, you feel that truth and you share that truth when people want to listen to it.
But that feeling is unconditional love.
It's massive, massive unconditional love. Unconditional love comes from that knowing. It's that glue, because if you truly know, you're never separated from anyone. Right? And you integrate with it. You know it down in the deepest parts of who you are.
And you can see that as you see your dog heal, as you see him come into his own, he begins to love you unconditionally to the point that he would even sacrifice his life. Before he was hiding in a corner.
Yeah.
In his ignorance, concerned only about his safety.
His safety. That was
you see what I'm saying?
And now he will do a lot of things for me, probably that would be outside of my imagination.
Right.
Truthfully.
Because it's a recognition.
Yeah.
Of that unconditional love.
And through that recognition, there is a fantastic mutual respect for one another.
Yes, 100%.
And the same thing, there's no difference between me and the dog and me and another human being. Or me and a tree in nature. I'm not going to go pour oil, cut things down that I don't need to. I'm not going to burn things heedlessly or buy what I don't need or interact with people in a poor manner because I know the form and function of it. Right. If I know my thoughts are stored in things and they slam into people and ruin their day, and then it's all going to come back to me because we're in a big closed unit, pay attention.
Yeah, that's why, and you know, because I have like 13, 14 books now of Sufism.
Yeah.
And I've been studying it, and it's a mystical part of Islam.
Sure.
And it just intrigued me. I've learned to, if something's good, and I begin to, whether it's a food or whatever it is, I become in tune. And I'm like, I want to know about this. and
want to know more.
I want to know more. So it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I want to mention pomegranates either. I want to eat a pomegranate. Why would I not eat a pomegranate? They're great for me.
They're great for you.
And if my body is craving it, I want to learn more about it. I want to consume that. So Sufism, they whether it's Allah, God, or creation, there's lots of different, religion puts words on things. But I love, I love what they call, and we can say God, creation, whatever what they call it is beloved. So like they look at God as beloved, and the only way to know God is through love. That's
the only way, because God
and not having an identity.
In their terms, God is love.
And like Rumi, he was a Sufi, and he's very popular, and there's a lot of them. But poetry is really big in Sufism. And this is something that the only way to know is to not have an identity and to understand that energy transaction of unconditional love.
Yeah. And when they're talking about don't have too much of an identity, don't identify too much with this material body.
Yes.
It doesn't last. Mm-mm. People know, talk to an older person in your family. It withers away. You can't hold it into perfection forever. It's not meant to be there, because if it did, you wouldn't learn anything. You'd sit around fucking all day long, right? You'd be completely hedonistic if you would never die.
Right.
There has to be something where it stops at a point, like all things. Plants, right? The sun comes up and it sets. Stars die. All these things, it has to go through these cycles. But find the comfort and the deep eternal peace in the fact that the spirit, the thing that enlivens you, that you really are, the thing that holds all that knowledge, every experience you've ever learned, don't be saddened at the fact that you're going to die and you'll never remember those things. They'll always be there. Because in the next life, you just have to be so well ingrained in knowing yourself that you can access that information.
Yeah, and one of the Sufisms, there's a story, and it's really beautiful, and I want you to talk about this afterwards, but because you'll get it instantly. But there's a wise sage, because this is the problem with affirmations and all this crystals and all this stuff, which we all believe in, and we've done episodes on them. We understand them all as tools.
Yeah,
but he talks about. This guy was wanting to go on a spiritual journey, and he knocks on the guy's door, and he's like, "I'm here," and the guy didn't answer. And then he comes back later, and he's trying to get more enlightened and getting more enlightened. And he's more enlightened, and then he goes, "I'm here. I'm ready. I'm ready to learn." And there's so many people out there that are like ready to learn. And then finally, years later, he comes on the door and he says, "You are here."
Yeah.
And there's a realization that we're all one.
Yeah.
And he came to that realization, and then the door was open, and
he had to make the conscious choice to be there. Mm-hmm. That was the step. That was him being ready.
And that we're one. There's no identity. Yeah, I may be Troy Jason Rigby, but that's not the real me.
No.
And you're Alex, but there's no separation here. And we talked about hyper oneness in our last podcast, and this is what we got into.
Killer episode.
Yes, killer episode.
Yeah.
Super funny.
Yeah, I did like
on some
that.
parts. Yeah.
No, on some parts. But listen. It's that recognition, and from that recognition, going back to your original thing, explain what being is. That's what it is. It's being. And I have it in all caps because there's so much loving power in it when you truly understand what it means. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think you can feel the love whenever you say them. So let's. I want to go through these.
We'll go through them one by one.
There's 9 of them, and they can go to Higher Density Living, get it. Also, we've been posting a lot on social media. First one is, I am solely responsible for every outcome.
Right. And this is super, super important, because when we were talking about like praying, cosmic influence, gods, and all that other stuff, it has nothing to do with them. You have to make those choices. These are the laws of cause and effect. Okay. Nature understands it very well. Creation put it there on purpose. I am solely responsible. And when I realize that responsibility, then I have to push myself down on that path that if I'm going to do something, I got to make sure I do it now, and I have to learn. I can't pass my knowledge off to somebody else. I can't pass my evolution off to somebody else. I need to make those choices. And I have to understand that what I choose, and when the effect comes back to me, positive or negative, that is 100% beholden to all the choices I had made to get to that point. I have to recognize that. And if you really recognize that cause and effect, that sole responsibility, you stop thinking negative thoughts. You stop thinking things of separation. You stop thinking things of unknowledge, unlove. You don't think that way.
Yeah, there's a guy, and he has a multi-billion-dollar company, and he has a podcast. Tom Bayou is his name, and he talks about this, taking 100% responsibility. Because I want to put it real practical in what you're saying.
Please, yeah.
And I want you to elaborate on this. He says, it's 100% my responsibility if a meteorite comes out of the sky, hits my wife, and kills her. It's 100% my responsibility. He goes, because there's a lot of things I could have done. If I could have recognized that there was meteorites that were coming, I could have studied them. I could have changed my occupation. I could have moved in this direction. I could have known, and because the cause and effect, we want to play victim so much that we're not willing to say, but that's when you become, the journey really starts when you become 100% authentic with yourself.
And the only way you can do that is
stop bullshitting yourself.
And recognize your responsibility of your actions.
Yes.
Do not say you're not to blame for it.
Yes.
If you were acting like a dick and you hurt someone's feelings, you're responsible.
Right.
If you're in a shitty circumstance, you are responsible.
People don't like to hear this. This is a hard truth.
If you are not intellectual in a certain manner, you are responsible for it. It's not because of your skin color or where you were born. You are solely responsible. You can make so many choices.
Right.
And you're there because you're there to learn. And if it's more difficult for you to get there, then all the power to you if you do it. But if you don't, if you sit there and you whine and you feel sorry for yourself, you prevent your evolution. You prevent your consciousness from actually growing. You prevent other people from evolving because every time they interact with you and you pass off that responsibility and you act in a negative manner because you don't realize the effect of what you are doing, you're killing them. You're storing that bad energy in them. You're just entrenching them with all this negativity that actually holds them back. And then it's going to hold you back. And then you're going to continue to look around and search for these answers, but you got to realize that you are the person that has to find the answer in yourself.
That's the first start.
If you're poor, go do something about it.
Right.
If you don't like your relationship, do something about it. Don't wait for someone else, cosmic influence. Stop praying. There is no God. It's all about creational energy, and it gave you the choices to do what you need to do. You have that free will. Don't bitch that someone else has taken away your free will. You're responsible for your own free will. If you gave it up to somebody, go get it back.
Right.
Don't wait around.
It's so
Don't
true,
be so
bro.
pusillanimous about it, right? That means pussyfooting around.
That's anti what is happening now. I mean, you could go on Twitter and you see this cancel, where they're canceling everybody, and from mistakes that they made. I saw Ryan Reynolds and his wife, they were like in a wedding in a plantation or something, and they apologized. I get all that, but you have to understand what happened. What happened when you had a slave owner in the late 1700s? You can't blame that for who you are right now.
No.
I can't blame, because I come from Irish were really persecuted here in the United States.
Sure.
I can't sit there and just focus on that and then say, because of who I am is because of this past.
So you're going to identify to the past? You're going to identify to something that has absolutely zero power over you?
Zero.
You're going to identify with something that has absolutely no effect on what you're going to do right now?
No matter how horrific the event was. Because in reality, us here in America, especially, and I know we have a lot of people from Germany and stuff like that because of Deezer.
That's right. Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
But no matter where you're from, we are, and I'm going to use this word because I think it's so important. We are so privileged. I mean, we get pissed off if Starbucks fucks up our order, and our coffee that we had with our coconut oil or oat milk. You introduced me to oat milk.
Yeah.
Or what I got oat milk the other day, and and they only had like 2 left. It's real popular right now. So people, and it's the one brand that you like. And I got it and I took it home and I had it for a week. And then I go to taste. I wanted a big swig of it, right?
Oh yeah.
And somehow it had went bad.
Interesting.
In a week. I don't know how it did, but it tasted like super sour milk, like super nasty. And I don't know how that happened.
I don't know. I don't know the chemistry.
I don't know the chemistry or anything. And I got like this little bit of rage in me because I'm like, I paid like 10 times what normal milk would be, and it's oat milk. It's different than cow's milk.
And you held on to it.
It's not supposed to do this.
You drank it late.
I put an expectation. You see what I'm saying? Because when you take 100% responsibility for something, and we got to move on with these because we could we could make 9 podcasts out of each one of these. That's why I told you, I was like, we got to do stuff with this affirmation.
This is good.
I put an expectation on something that was not even, it's just linear. There's nothing.
You were so attached
I put an
to the
expectation
outcome?
and identity in it. And then I developed emotion off of it because it did not live up to my expectation.
So much angst with the oat
But that
milk.
responsibility is me. Did I look at the date?
No, you didn't.
Did I just
guarantee you just ripped it off the shelf.
I was like, there's only 2 or 3 left. I'm going to grab one.
I knew you were, you sick hoarding son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I knew you did.
And I hope this guy doesn't grab it before me.
Yeah.
Yeah, scarcity mentality.
Yeah, good for you.
But me tasting that nasty oat milk that was sour or however it happens. I don't know. That was 100% my responsibility.
You bet it was. Yeah. And it was also your responsibility to act the way you did.
When I got divorced, that's 100% my responsibility.
You bet it was.
Yeah, 100%.
You made all the choices to get into that relationship and to get out of it.
Do you know when I say that, even now, I mean, this was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Even now, how freeing that feels when you get it.
You understand now. Yeah. But you have sensed that responsibility.
Right.
And that you are solely responsible for all of your outcomes.
Because now I've admitted to myself, I stopped bullshitting myself.
Yes.
It's my fault. So now I can sit here and say, the next relationship I have or I fall in love with somebody, I'm not going to do the same mistakes that I made before.
No, because you've now recognized the knowledge.
Right.
And you've integrated it. What's the next one we have?
Yes. Let's move on.
No, this is good. Yeah.
That's why I told you, bro, we could go on and on. I am the cause of all my effects. This is kind of bouncing.
No, we do. I did this twice, right? Because you have the outcomes.
No. But cause is really important.
Yeah, because on the first one, when I went back and I read it, I'm like, why would I repeat this thing multiple times, right? So
one's outcome, one's cause.
Yeah, one's outcome and one's cause. So I'm talking about, okay, because people are always looking to the future. Great. So that's obviously taken care of. Now let's look at right now, at this very moment. I'm itching my leg.
Right.
Ah, good. What's the effect? I feel better. Right. I'm doing this podcast as a cause, right? To effectively teach people. So are you.
Right.
That is what we need to focus on, right? Understand that in this very moment, you're creating so many causes in this very instant. Causes with your thoughts,
right?
Causes with your bodily functions, causes with what you say. That's what you need to be focusing on.
The cause, like when we had our other podcasts where we got into, physics and those Italian guys that figured out, like when you look at that particle.
Yes.
And in that moment, it can affect the past and the future.
That's correct.
And it doesn't enact until you observe it.
Yeah. Through the observance of it. That is the cause, right? And that's the double slit experiment.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's the cause you need to recognize that being able to live in the moment right now with those causes is going to have immediate effects on your past and future instantaneously. And if you can recognize that cause and that effect, then you see the power of cause and effect. And then you can also go back and appreciate all of the outcomes that are occurring on the very first affirmation.
But people don't realize, because we're eternal beings, that we're affecting the past. And it's like, the past is already done, Jason. No, it's not.
No.
The past and the future is all but one. And I'm going to use Will Smith's label, entanglement.
Because it's all one line. Yeah. And if you want to change your past, you're going to change your recognition of how you actually view that. So the cause of your conscious thoughts will be able to perceive, do I look at the past as a bad thing or take it as a teaching moment?
Yes.
Oh my God, I just changed my entire past. I changed all my emotions when I recognize it.
You changed your past off of that moment.
Off of that moment, because that direct cause that my consciousness just had.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's important about that. That's number 2. All right, let's go to 3. Yeah, now we're firing them up. This is great.
We're firing them up. I am and this is a word you need to explain, determinant?
Yep.
Of my evolution.
Yes, I'm the determinant of my evolution. So what's that saying? So now we have our cause and effect down. We have responsibility down. Right. Now we need to recognize that we are solely here to evolve in our spirit and evolve in our consciousness. So if I am the determinant of my evolution, I understand my responsibility, and I understand how cause and effect is going to directly influence whether or not I'm going to evolve or de-evolve. That's what that's saying. Wow, I didn't realize how the 3 of these are actually caked into one another. This is really fun.
I mean,
I was just writing them down, so this is interesting.
That's why I want to do this podcast, because I think it's more than.
Yeah, that's actually, there's more than I thought to this. Now that I'm thinking about it. Each one's baked into the next.
So, this responsibility that you take of my evolution.
Yeah,
I'm taking 100% responsibility of my evolution.
Yeah.
Now I have a free will, and in that free will, I have choices.
Yes, you've recognized choice.
Yes.
And you've recognized the power of choice, the outcomes of choice, the cause and effects of choice. Now you're really evolving, because if you've integrated that properly, you understand where your path lies ahead, and now you can follow it. And
you can look at it and say, this work that I'm doing, this boss that I have, this relationship that I'm in.
Don't blame the boss.
Yeah, I have responsibility right now to make a decision.
To evolve.
A choice to evolve. And to evolve to a higher good, to me, understanding my being, I cannot be in this relationship anymore. Or maybe I need to understand why I need to be in this relationship.
Yeah.
It's two choices.
And if you're not making those choices, you're smacking creation in the face because you're not recognizing all the power and love it's giving you to actually get to that moment and make those choices.
Yes.
By sitting there and doing nothing and not recognizing it, you're just completely oblivious to everything the universe is doing and everything it's given you freely. I don't care. Well, then you're never going to evolve.
You're also looking at it, and C.S. Lewis, a great writer, he talked about this. He said, we have this huge mansion that we're looking at, that we have the keys to, but yet we sit and play in this small little sandbox with no protection around us, as like a little kid with just pure ignorance.
That's great.
But I love that, because playing in the sandbox is ultimately us choosing to look at the time that we have, the identity of who we think we are,
right,
and the circumstances that are around us. And so we literally will buy things or have things in our little sandbox,
or Tonka trucks
that will, whether it's, I'm drinking a beer now, whether it's alcohol or whether it's drugs or whether it's money or gambling, whatever vices we have, these things cause us to not look at the bigger picture.
You'll miss it.
Yes.
You'll be blinded by the small walls of your sandbox, and you'll be completely disinterested in this beautiful key that gives you the power to evolve to something that you can actually respect.
Yes.
This beautiful mansion of creation sits behind you, but you keep your head down playing with your toys and your vices, and you can never look outside of that perspective. You're stuck in four walls. You're not living in the infinite 360 behind you.
And you're the only one that has the master key.
You have the key.
Yeah.
And you have to make that evolutionary choice to step out of the sandbox. Stop being so infantile in your consciousness and your unknowledge. Stop being so pretentious, right? And what's the word you use for Starbucks?
Like Starbucks?
No, when you're talking about Starbucks.
Oh, we're so privileged.
Yeah, and stop think you're so privileged to have everything. It's not a privilege.
Right.
There is no privilege. This was given completely out of love to everyone.
Prime example, last night I went with someone and kind of had a little date, and we were eating, and she looked at me and she goes, "You're being really gracious with everyone, with the waiters and waitress stuff." It's like, well, I'm really realizing the struggle that they're going through. This place is trying to stay open. They have a small patio. They can't let people inside, which seats 100 people. They can only let people we got all this bullshit going on, literally bullshit.
Yeah.
And so they can only have 20 tables. There's people waiting because they're only one of the one places that have a patio. And then now you've got all these waiters and waitresses and cooks and everybody else is having to run around with a mask on, and I was looking at it and I was like, the only opportunity that I have right now to demonstrate who I am is to demonstrate unconditional love and compassion.
Right.
And that's who I need to be right now. And I watched a guy that was next to us and he was pissed off because he waited 5 minutes and he didn't get his alcoholic drink yet, which I had an IPA, whatever. But I knew I was like, I took the time to stop, and I'm not saying this is good me or whatever. I'm just saying these affirmations are how, this is how they help you in the real world. What people think the real world is, where I turn around and I said, how's your day going? I know you're really busy. I'm so thankful that you're doing this, because I'm able to come out, take a break from being, stuck in my house all day long and go have a meal and have a conversation with somebody out on a patio in beautiful evening weather here in Albuquerque. And I began to recognize all of what creation has accomplished to get me to that point.
Right.
To be with another being and have an amazing conversation.
That's so
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To look at the overcast skies, because we're in monsoon season now, and to see it go from 98 to 80 degrees, to get a slight breeze, why can I not be thankful for all of that?
Right.
If it takes 20 extra minutes, who gives a fuck?
In the end, who cares? And you took those 20 minutes and it was a huge learning experience for you.
Why can't you take the opportunity when you're in traffic?
Yeah.
I know it gets pissy when you're in traffic and you're waiting because you are 100% responsible because you should have looked at the map and saw that there was traffic. You actually left your house 5 minutes later than you should. Now you're pissed off at everybody around you because you're not going to get to work on time.
Just remember, you left late.
Yeah.
And you knew very well ahead of time what was going to happen.
Now listen to the next one. So I want to get into the next one, Alex.
Yeah.
If we can.
Please.
Because I think this is hugely important. Let me get off of Snapchat here.
Yeah. Get off of TikTok. Stop giving your data to the Chinese.
Yeah, that's a thing right now.
Yeah.
Look, did you see Microsoft's looking at trying to buy them out?
Yeah, the US version.
Yeah, the US version.
Because they know how valuable
it
is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I can get your GPS, your locations, and then grab all that data.
Yeah, and then I'll resell it back to the Chinese.
So here we go. Next one, the fourth one. I am solely responsible for the outcomes of my future.
Yes. And this is going to, because you've understood the responsibility,
Right.
okay, in the previous ones, you understand what your current actions are doing now to have their effects, okay? And you're the sole determinant of what's going to happen. When you can see that, then you're going to understand into the future, you're going to be the one that determines your probabilities of outcome. You're going to determine your own prophecy. You're going to determine your own destiny, whatever it might be, because you are forcing yourself in that direction through your will. Because through that deeper recognition, you've built up that willpower to drive you to those future outcomes that you want.
So the outcomes begin to, like we saw Moses parting the Red Sea, the outcomes and him willing that to take a sea. And Jesus said that you can take the grain of a mustard seed and, move mountains.
Yeah.
And he's talking about controlling creation.
Yeah, because if you understand truly how a seed works, what's required for the germination of it, that's great. Because I ran that meditation last night and we were talking about seeds. Because you act in the same way that a seed germinates. So you need external influence. You need like liquid to come in, and that'll soften your shell, right? So you're getting all this knowledge that's beating you, right? And that's going to soften you up a little bit. And it's going to break you down from your unknowledge. And that allows you internally to begin to germinate. Now you can start to pull nutrients of whatever that knowledge might be. And then through that germination, you find that your knowledge begins to expand and you begin to recognize whatever these creational ideas are, and you begin to flourish. You break through the soil. You grow a very long stalk. And at the top, you have flowering buds, which are the fruit.
But as you go to the top, the roots go deeper.
The roots go deeper.
And that's
they're both self-fulfilling at the same time. And that's what the beauty of the mustard seed is. It's a very robust crop. It's interesting that the mustard seed was chosen. But all of these things, through those recognitions...
Well, I think Jesus talked about it being like the smallest seed, too.
It is the small seed, but it has the same amount of power in it that everything else in creation does.
That's so beautiful, bro.
Yeah.
Think about that. Because there are people out there that are listening to this right now and think, oh, what am I?
That's because the creational laws that affect that mustard seed are the same exact ones that affect you. There's no difference. So again, that's just another way to bind you with nature and realize, oh my gosh, we are interconnected.
So somebody that views an influencer on Instagram or a politician, at the highest levels, and they view them as being powerful, it's a false sense of identity once again.
It's a very false sense of identity, and you're essentially identifying with them. You're identifying with their power, whatever it might be, and you're giving up yours to them. And then you're not taking responsibility for all the future outcomes, even becoming more powerful within yourself in a loving manner. In a manner of wisdom, right? You're not getting there. And so you're not finding that sole responsibility of what your future is going to be. You are not determining it for yourself.
Yeah, whether it's Chancellor Merkel or, for Germany, or whether it's, Donald Trump or Joe Biden, they're struggling with same things that you're struggling with.
Everybody does.
Right.
No one's any different here. We're all on that same journey of learning.
So I want to get into the word, me and my eyesight here. I'm trying to look at this. I want to get into the word before we move on to the next one real quick is outcomes, and use plural. Well, they're outcomes.
Yeah, they're outcomes. So what happens is your conscious thoughts,
right?
Out is external and comes. That means it brings it back to you. So there's the externalities that are coming back to these conscious thoughts through that recognition.
Yeah, that's deep, bro.
Wow, that's wild. Thank you for asking me about that. I didn't realize how deep all this stuff was when I was writing it. Like, seriously.
You just got downloaded, bro.
Yeah, that was a big old download.
The creature was like...
And dump it on him right now.
So I am solely responsible for the outcomes of my future. So the comes dictate the future.
Absolutely, right? So the thoughts I'm having now, as they project out of me, comes the future. It's coming to me because I'm moving to it. Time, right? Relative.
Right.
That present moment is always moving to whatever that future moment might be.
So you're, and I want to make sure I'm saying this right. The thoughts that you're thinking now is creating the future.
Yes, because you create just like creation does. If creation creates, you have to be creating also. You create it in the material and you create it internally within your consciousness.
So that lady that's sitting out there right now that's had 6 bad relationships, she's creating those relationships.
You bet she is. And she's making the choice.
She can see the pattern in every single one because she's attracted to that bad guy with the neck tattoos. And I got tons of tattoos, but if I could, I would do neck tattoos too. I fucking love them. But I was watching Joe Rogan interviewed Post Malone, the famous singer, and he's got them all over his face and everywhere else. Yeah, he's an artist, a singer, or whatever. But whenever you look at the outcome, and then you look at future. You have to and then you look at responsibility.
Yes.
That outcome, when you look at it and you're like, why am I here right now? Yeah. Well, you just created that.
Yeah, of course. You have the responsibility to create it.
Right.
And not taking that responsibility, you're squandering naturally what you need to be doing in your own evolution. You're saying, if I don't want to create, if I don't want to recognize the outcomes, I don't want to evolve. And I will sit in the same patterns and I will never recognize them properly, and I will pass off all my responsibility to other people.
And it'll give you those same patterns over and over again.
Yeah, because you need to learn them.
Yeah, you need to learn them to heal. You need to learn them to understand. You need to learn them to not just heal or understand personally for yourself, but you need to learn those to be able to teach others.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, next. These are good, bro.
Yeah, hold on. Fire.
Flames on Instagram, yeah. I do not believe I think for myself. When I do not know, I search. And when I find the truth, I integrate it.
Let's break that.
Okay,
down.
Let's start with I do not believe.
Okay. We don't believe for a specific reason. Because in doing so, you're saying, I am not taking the time to become knowledgeable in something.
Right.
And so what that says is I need to give up my free will, my submissiveness to some other thing to tell me what I need to know.
That's perfect.
Without me finding out the truth for myself. So that means other people determine the truth for you. And it probably 99% of the time, it's not the truth.
Right, yeah.
Because they never did the searching and they live in their own cycle of belief, what they're passing over to you.
But what their reality is theirs.
Yes, but believing. Theirs. And when you believe, you take no responsibility.
Right.
So all the other things above you in this affirmation, they are a precursor to say that if you follow these properly, you really cannot believe. You have to think for yourself. And by thinking for yourself, you can be responsible for all your outcomes.
But it's not just thinking of yourself. And you wrote this. You said, I think for
myself, right? Because you are responsible for your own thinking. Someone doesn't have a thought. I'm not going to blame my parents for the way I think now.
Right.
Yes, they were there. People are inputs, or where I've been, where I've worked, all the people I've interacted with. They don't think for me. I have to do that thinking.
But creation will put that, like we talked about earlier, creation will put that in there, whether it was a trigger from your parents or whatever it may be in your life, an old relationship, whatever. It's going to be that pattern's going to be put there over and over and over again for you to learn and teach,
Precisely.
For you to learn and teach. So when you recognize that, then you can turn around and say, I think for myself, because I'm thinking for myself right now. And I'm saying, oh, self-awareness pops in.
Bang.
Oh shit.
Yes.
This is a pattern I experienced 4 times.
Wow. Jason, don't make the same mistake again. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's very obvious.
You're right.
I'm talking in the third person. Yeah, that's because I figured it out.
Right. And so how do we figure it out? And you said this, when I do not know, I search.
Yeah, I search. And that's what you have to do. You search for the proper place to live. You search for the right words to say. You search for the proper emotions to share with other people. And sometimes they're going to be the wrong one. Doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't mean it was the wrong thing to do. You just needed to learn.
Yes.
This is the act of learning. Searching is the act of learning. So in going through those steps, burning your hand is necessary.
Yes.
Understand
because at that level, you're 1 year old and your maturity level is there. You have to burn your hand to be understand that at the level that you're at in that moment for consciousness.
At that moment.
That's why the religion that you're in right now, that you need to get out of, is because you're growing. You're
growing.
at a higher consciousness.
Recognize it.
And you're recognizing it.
And you need to search for something else. You need to search for your own internal truth. And if you haven't found it, if you became lazy, research again for it. Go back and research, because you're going to learn something new when you go back and reflect on it again. You'll find something deeper. Searching is the first step. Researching is going deeper.
And this is what you said after that. When I do not know, I search. And when I find the truth, I integrate it. So stop right there, because people say, well, how do I know the truth?
You're going to know the truth. You're going to recognize it, because you're going to align with something that respects your free will, that shows that you are creative. It shows you this is something that creates no separation but brings us together.
Right.
Okay? It's something that projects loving thoughts, and it's something that forces me to learn more.
And I want people to understand this because this is really important when they're searching and when they're looking at truth. Right now I'm studying Sufism, which is mystic Islam.
Yep.
You're studying these prophecies from, I mean, you've been reading this book from these prophecies from extraterrestrial beings or whatever,
Yes.
It may be true. It may not be.
That's okay, but it's for me to search.
Yeah, it's for you to search and find out. I don't feel like I need to. I'm not interested in that. But you're also not interested in Islamic poets.
No, I'm not, and I've gone through Kabbalistic Judaism, I've read, all these different things, different psychiatrists,
But I want people to understand that it's their free will.
Yeah.
And as long as they're searching, as long as they're studying.
You're evolving.
Yes.
That's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty, yep.
As long as you search and you integrate this knowledge and you find a truth, and then you research with that truth to see if it really is beholden to time immemorial, then you found something.
What you say in the affirmation is when I find the truth,
yes,
I integrate it.
And
let's talk about integration.
Integration, which says that if I take this knowledge, I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to use it in practice. Because using it in practice, it proves that I'm not hypocritical to what I'm saying. I'm walking the walk and I'm talking the talk. And I'm testing in my current life right now something I've observed, and I'm trying to understand as knowledge so that I know, should I continue to keep using it? I don't know.
So let's use your dog being abused.
Yeah.
We'll go back to that because I think all of us could look at that in our lives.
Such a good boy, though.
Yeah, he's such a good boy. But so he's testing things.
Yes.
In his level of consciousness.
All the time.
And he's like, if I steal this cookie, am I going to get beat?
If I jump up on the counter and pull the whole pizza off.
Yeah, and what's going to happen to me? Before, this used to happen to me.
Yes.
But this is really important because at his level of consciousness, he's testing things that are bad.
Yes.
You don't pull a pizza off the counter.
Mm-mm.
But he's going to test that because he needs to see the reaction
yes.
of what love is.
Otherwise, he'll never know.
Because because people aren't getting.
You're precisely correct.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Again, precise.
We're going to do some bad shit.
Yes.
So that we can feel creation love us.
Yeah. What happens is the stronger the negative energy.
Yes.
There has to be the other polarity of love and goodness or unification or hyper oneness on the other side that teaches you that, wait a minute, that's not the way to do it. So you're going to get hammered with more beautiful things.
And you're going to do stupid shit in the testing.
Stupid stuff. Right.
You're going to pull a pizza off the counter.
You bet you will. And then from that, in that moment, you're going to learn an even deeper love.
Yes.
You'll realize that was such a great mistake. And then through a deeper interaction, maybe someone comes up and it's immediate forgiveness. Remember we go back to those Amish people?
Yes. When they had their own children.
It was the perfect.
Gunned down.
It was something so heavy and so violent and negative was touched with so much love and polarity on the other side. It was the perfect balance.
Collectively,
yes,
that resonated. That vibration resonated throughout the whole world.
You bet it did. And it created that a hyper oneness of both of those actions and those thoughts. And they brought them together and they found an equanimitable neutrality of what was going on there. There was an actual integration and then moving beyond that. They integrated that knowledge. They integrated that learning in the moment. They put it into action and did something truly just absolutely profound.
And the problem is we could look at that and say, well, they're Amish and, they don't
put them in a box. Don't separate them.
And women can only wear dresses and they have to have, things on their heads. But see, this is a problem. This is what we look at when someone is becoming, I want to make sure I say this right and stop me and interrupt me. So like somebody like that, when they're looking at this and they're saying, all I know is that what I've been taught in my current condition is I understand unconditional love.
Yeah.
And even though my children were taken away from me, I still need to love this person. That's what I'm taught in the German Bible. Cause they study German, German Bible over and over again. It talks about unconditional love. So this is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I do. I put it into practice. When you begin to judge another person for all the other part, when that little single thread is unconditional love,
which is the most beautiful.
You see what I'm saying?
Threads.
People will say, "I don't." This part is horrific.
They're going to magnify all the other pieces of it, but the real golden, beautiful, magnificent, infinite part of what it is—that's
the truth part.
Was the truth. And they're going to dance around it because they live their lives in a series of untruth.
Yes.
They live in an abyss of unknowledge and ignorance. Yes.
We all live in untruth.
We all of us, right? And they refuse to integrate those truths, but they'll dance around it and highlight all the separate things, but they will not focus on what truly matters.
Right.
It's the same thing that happened with every prophet that's ever come and touched this planet.
Mm-hmm.
From Muhammad to Emmanuel, Jesus, as you know him, whatever it might be, they hammer him. They don't focus on the truth of what he was saying. They're going to dance around it and they're going to nitpick. They're going to nitpick absolutely everything else.
Well, I think that's what religion does, though, dogma.
Yeah.
It sits there and nitpicks, and then it becomes to the point to where we don't even see those acts in that moment of integration.
Yeah.
We don't see that moment of integration of it wasn't just love, it was creation. They created something, because it touched me deeply.
And when
I couldn't do that I would want to kill that guy.
No, exactly. But think about this though. When you read the Bible,
right,
you picked out the most important truths within it.
I felt
outside of the dogmatic stuff.
Right.
And I want everyone to listen to this to recognize something. You have an Old Testament, correct?
Right.
And you have a New Testament.
Right.
The church had to rework something because it is not truthful knowledge that lasts for all time in creation.
Yes.
That should be your first logical red flag that this is a fucking lie. Flat out.
Yes.
The fact that you have to go back and change your verbiage, what you're saying, how people understand it, whatever it might be, to change it for changing times because their intellect is developing, that just tells you that it's a baseless truth. It's an untruth.
Right. But you can look at it and say, okay, I understand where they're coming. When I look at Paul's teachings, the Apostle Paul, I don't look at it and say every word of his is perfect. I look at it and say, he talked about treating slaves good, but he didn't condemn slavery.
But let's look at the beauty of what was in there, right? Let's look at the deeper truths. Outside of all the dogmas and everything else that the church had to rework over two separate renditions of this Bible,
right?
Crap. It's just what it is. Truth does not need to be changed. Creation doesn't need to change its laws because they are permanent for all time. They're endless, just like your spirit is. Mm-hmm. Imagine if your spirit had to constantly change itself to conform to changing laws and all this other stuff. It's no, it knows the deepest truths.
Yes.
Are you going to recognize them? Are you going to pull those golden threads, those beautiful nuggets? Or are you going to nitpick everything else around it? Yeah,
and that's what scholars have done.
That's all that they've done, and they're all contending all these things and all these old religious works. And it's what are you wasting your time? You can see right here that it's not even worth contending because it's not true knowledge.
That's what the great Sufi teachers say. They say, in Islam, we can get so caught up in everything else that we realize the number one thing, and that is having a relationship with love.
Yeah. If you can't, that's what I'm talking about.
They even say it over and over again. They go, stop going to the mosque. They say this, stop going to the mosques. Stop going to the churches. Stop going to, because you don't need to go anywhere because it is in you.
Yeah, see, they were into some really beautiful stuff.
I mean, I could do mystic Christianity.
No, but that's not even
mystic.
That's
Judaism,
not dogmatic. That's
whatever.
That's a truthful statement. It's not dogmatic.
That will last eternity.
That doesn't take away your free will. It doesn't create separation.
Right.
Nothing.
Now they're in the Islam tradition or whatever, that will come and go and all that.
Sure.
And we can read the Quran and all that, and we can see parts like the Bible where it's all kind of weird. But what that person said is truth that will last for eternity.
You bet it will, because that aligns with creational laws and recommendations.
Which is the next thing. Listen,
what is
are you
that?
ready?
Yeah, go ahead and tell me.
I observe natural and the creational laws.
Yes. So
what is the word observe?
Observe is when you're actually taking external stimulus. Okay.
Are you grabbing your identity when you observe something?
No.
Are you putting your identity into it?
No.
This is really important. Observation. It's a big word.
Yeah. Observation is interesting because observation is saying, okay, if I'm watching, I'm a third party.
Yes.
Watching things interact on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Because through that interaction, I can learn. I can truly see with real eyes and fresh perspective what's happening.
When I see something, I want to judge it.
No, don't judge it. Observe it. And if you truly love it,
right,
you're not going to put it in a box. You're just going to take it for exactly what it is.
Can I observe it and judge it, or do I become it I judge it?
If you judge it, that says that you are higher than creation itself. You're higher than the thing that gives you life, and that wouldn't be possible. Because for you to judge whether or not creation is good or bad, I mean, you can condemn everybody to whatever you want. You're your own best judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah. And then so you've put yourself as being eternal,
above everyone else. Yes. You've created yourself in a sense of separation. There's nothing unifying about a principle of judging.
Right.
How is it for you to judge?
You just put your name as a god.
Yeah. How do you know what's right or wrong?
And then I can make those decisions, who dies and who doesn't.
Yeah. And how do you know what's right or wrong for somebody else? It's not your life.
So you said I observe natural and the creational laws. What's the distinction between natural and creational laws?
Okay, so interesting. There's many universes, right?
Right.
So there might be a natural law that's happening in a specific universe. Planets may spin in a different direction.
Right.
Solar systems may evolve differently. Okay, so depending on where you are in that vector of time.
What did they say? There's like 100 million Earths.
There's an infinite amount of them.
Yeah.
There's a massive number.
Are saying that.
Yeah, there's an infinite number of universes, right? But when we look at creational law, that's the thing that is beholden. So the universe sits actually inside of all of creation. You have millions and millions and billions and trillions of universes, and those sit inside the totality of creation. So I'm going to observe the natural laws that are happening out here that affect me in this current universe. And then I'm going to look at the creational laws, the things that are permanent for absolutely everything. Okay? That's cause and effect. That's the law of love, the law of oneness. You know, these are the things we need to focus on. And I'm not going to give all the answers for what these laws are. I may do them later. We may go on episodes on each one.
And you can go online. I mean, some say there's 7, some say there's 9, some say there's 13,
What's important is that you take the path of learning them for yourself.
And you can go in and type in Google, like, universal laws.
Yeah, look at what these things are. Yeah. And then think about them deeply. And think about how they apply to not only the external world, Jason, but also to your internal world, the deeper part of you. How do they apply to your spirit and your consciousness? Because they have to affect both. They're not isolated factors here.
Funny you say that. You know why, Alex?
Why, Jason?
Listen, the next one is I live the laws to the fullest by integrating them into my being.
Yes. So into my existence. Living those laws to the fullest means I've recognized them. I've searched, researched, integrated. I've taken that knowledge. I've accepted it. And now I'm applying it into who I am internally in my spirit, my consciousness, and how I act amongst everybody else that I interact with, the nature of the planet.
So you said something, you used the word existence.
Yes.
Like something is happening, something is being created into existence.
Yes, because
darkness becomes light, light becomes, so what are you bringing into?
You're bringing light into these things. When you observe these creational laws, these natural laws,
right?
These recommendations for how you should probably live your life in a positive, equalized, neutral manner, these things allow you to bring created thoughts into existence. They create themselves into your will. Those go into your actions. All of these things lead into the greater expanse of you evolving.
So how do I keep from integrating them in? Because this is a question I had for you with these. How do I keep integrating them in from my intellect into my being?
That's fantastic. So how do you put it into your being?
Because I can become a scholar of these. I could devote my whole life to studying these affirmations.
Of course.
And I can write commentaries on each one of 1,000 pages apiece.
Yeah, but if you're not actually understanding it at the deepest moment and then going out and living that in every single moment, then all you are is an intellectual and you carry no wisdom because you've taken all this time to break it down and understand it, but there has been no application of it. So knowledge without proper application is a lack of wisdom.
Right.
And you'll never be wise. You'll never evolve at a phenomenal rate or help other people become wise in their own journeys because you're not moving that into existence. You're taking it all in. But as you take in, it needs to be balanced with things going out.
It's the same as now you could take a scholar that sits at Harvard and they're sitting there in the ivory tower and they write a book on racism and scholarly, they quote, they do everything that, everything that's going on in society and they just outline it in this book and it becomes amazing. But they've never integrated in their being because they've never left Harvard.
They've never left Harvard.
They've never all the people that are around them, the way that they interact, the dinners that they go to,
yes,
the philosophical arguments that they have when they're smoking a cigar.
How do they know if it's a truth then? You've never put it into practice.
No. I have lots of knowledge, Alex.
That's fine. You have all the knowledge. You can have all the intellect in the world.
I have footnotes, motherfucker.
Yeah, but that makes you unintelligent because you've narrowed your perspective of life to this specific thing, but you didn't realize that if you truly understood this law, this creational law and recommendation, that it is applicable to absolutely everything.
That's why.
And by not applying it to everything, by not allowing it to exist, by not creating, you're smacking creation in the face.
Do you remember that show that they had where CEOs of companies would go pretend like they were...
Undercover Boss.
Yeah, Undercover Boss. And they would go pretend that they were an employee. And the employees didn't know who they were because you're just an employee and they don't know who this, a lot of them didn't know who the CEO was, but they would even disguise themselves and everything. And the CEOs always got more out of it
than the
employees did.
Yeah.
Because they put themselves, they integrated. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it makes sense because if they're in a leadership position. Right. So you would hope that they've made choices in their life where they are a little bit more evolved to take on that leadership position.
But sitting in that big New York
ivory high tower,
in that high tower, and then having board meetings with the CFO and the CMO and the technology, the CTO, the technology officer. Now we have CTOs.
We do have CTO. Yeah.
I mean, Tardo has all this. So you could sit there and but you're not realizing, because we're going into Turkey now. You're not realizing the person that's sitting at Istanbul, that's sitting in his house, saying, "What is this?" You know what I mean? Now you could go sit with them and have some Turkish coffee with them.
Oh, I love that.
I know. And you're going to get a whole different perspective.
Yes.
That's integration.
That's proper integration. And it's also proper observance.
Oh, yes.
And it's also proper loving because you're listening and observing and you have to shut up for a second and take these things in, understand what the laws are and see how those laws are also applying to this individual.
And then what did the CEOs always do at the end of the show?
Cry.
Yeah, and what else did they do?
Buy people cars, because they couldn't get to work on time.
But no, they would give gifts because they were so appreciative.
Yeah.
And they had so much gratitude and understanding because the understanding was the gift.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
That's the real gift for them.
And they had means to bless somebody with something materialistic, but it was more than that. Whether they buy them a college education.
To gift them with something materialistic. Don't use the word bless.
Yeah.
Bless,
okay, yeah.
Proto-Germanic means blotteth. I'll repeat this again. It's a pagan blood ritual on an altar.
Yes.
Stop blessing people.
Yeah. I was listening about the Christmas time with going into the sweat lodges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they would put the red and white mushrooms on the trees.
Yeah.
And like little.
Oh, yeah.
The deers would eat them.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Peeps need to look at Christmas a little bit more.
Yeah, they do.
So real quick, I want to get on to the next one. I am a human being.
Yes. So not only do I exist permanently in my being, and my being is my spirit, but right now I am also human. I am also the material aspect of existence. That is the human aspect of who I am. And that sentence of affirmation defines the balance. It defines the material, the immaterial. The space, the spacelessness, the time, the timelessness. It's both of those. It's the combination that brings together that equilibrium.
And whether you're Jesus or whoever it was, they understood that they were all God but full man.
Yes, that's precisely correct. And to say, you're a God is fair in a human aspect. We are all gods if you're extremely wise, because God is the, again, Proto-Germanic translated word to Isvich. Isvich is the definition of what God is. And it just means a king of wisdom. So if you do become very wise, you can consider yourself a god, but it does not make you creation, because gods are a creature of creation. But in that aspect, you have to have the human aspect, the material aspect,
but
the fleshy vessel. As
being full human, but yet full creation.
You are. That's exactly what that is saying. You are full human right now, and that's not in caps, right? But the being is.
Yes.
Because the being is the power, the permanence, the eternal.
Right.
And that's why we have that there in that sentence. And that's the balance between both of those.
So, because we got to go to our next podcast and Michael's on.
Oh, is he hopped on?
We're doing another Higher Density Living podcast right after this one. Part 2. So let's finish up the last one.
Let's do it.
And then we'll get into this. I am part and parcel of, you have this on all caps, creation.
Right.
Part and parcel again.
You understand this. So I want you to give me what your first interpretation was of part and parcel. So you had a good metaphor.
Yeah. So part and parcel is like, I love apple pie.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite pies. So, I mean, a good apple pie with cinnamon and, you could go to Whole Foods, grab some organic apples, and you make apple pie. Do you eat apple pie?
I love apple pie.
They have vegan apple pie?
Yeah. Whole Foods, they do.
Oh, they do? Oh, perfect.
Killer.
I can eat apple pie anytime.
Yeah.
As far as dessert, I'm all down.
I want it right now.
So yeah, the crispy crust and everything else, and then you sprinkle a little bit of sugar on there and all that. So I'm a piece of that pie.
Yes.
But then there's the pie that makes it in and of itself. I'm apple pie.
Yeah.
So when you say apple pie, it could be a slice or it could be the whole pie.
It could be the whole thing.
That's part and parcel to me.
It's part and parcel to you. So if I am part of creation,
right.
I'm an existing thing that is happening within this totality of creation, this absolutum, right? This all of creation. And now the parcel of me, the parcel is the package. That's the spirit. I contain the energy, characteristics, and laws of creation all within me. That's the parcel. So I'm a part of it in my existence, but the parcel, those are all the characteristics and laws that you share with it. That's your hyper oneness with creation itself.
But and the creation is the ingredients that make me the apple pie.
Boom. Mic drop. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
Yeah. And so going through these affirmations, repeat them, understand how they all, now that I look at it, they all bake into one another. No pun intended with the apple pies,
Yeah. And I encourage people you need to meditate on them. That's
Sure.
what I've been doing.
I would love that.
I go over them. You can take on our website or on our social media. We have them horizontal, vertical, all that.
I bet you do.
Yeah. You can save them and then put them on your phone and then go back and look at them over and over again. Some people like to print them out and put them on.
Put them as the lock screen on your phone.
Yeah, your lock screen or whatever.
Get rid of you and your girlfriend or wife or fiance or children or dog. Get rid of that for a second.
Yeah. And,
put it up for a week.
And focus on, as for me, within this last week, it's revolutionized my life and I know it'll revolutionize others.
That makes me feel really good about writing this stuff down for everybody.
Yes. Perfect. Well, thanks Alex.
Look within, and live your life on the edge of two worlds. A reality where you find true understanding of who you are. The learning is done. Become the teacher in embodying the oneness of all. Walk the cliff's edge between the seen and the unseen realities. Become a higher density being. Please go to www.higherdensityliving.com.